Welcome to We Never Left. Today we have Kurapika from Factor DAO. And Factor is a protocol that seeks to revolutionize DeFi by creating the first ever composable drag and drop builder for DeFi strategies to really compose all of DeFi. When I first heard about this, I was really blown away. I think Kura, we've been having a chat for the last 1 year or so. Very cool to see. And of course, you can see that I'm repping the merch here today. But before we get down to the protocol itself, we'd love you to be able to introduce yourself and a bit of the lore around your personal journey into crypto and why Kurapika and how did we get here.
Of course. Thank you for the kind words, Imran. So yeah, my name is Kurapika and I'm the founder of Factor. So this is a journey in Factor we started off 2 years ago, but way before that, I started, let's say, my technological background with building a lot of analysis and database tools for anything from hedge funds, stock exchanges, and even government agencies. And I think it really opened up a lot of doors and to see, or windows to see where things in finance in general are really skewed, and really led me into crypto in general. So that's a very long journey since. I've started off in 2016, just off personal interest, and later on founded some companies within the space, which love to elaborate on. But I think the key factor here is really how to really be able to, maybe I'm naive, but really make a change and an impact over society as a whole, which is going down the drain in today's time.
So are you a fan? Like, there's the FBI token that just came out, the news about that. You mentioned some government relationships earlier. You're not a fan, are you?
Not a fan at all, no. But to be honest, I just noticed it today, but it's fair game, right? Like we're creating open finance and open systems. Regulators in an unregulated market, they have the ability to play the same way as we are. And whether you're getting rugged by a grifter from wherever and government agencies, you should keep yourself safe.
That's interesting. So tell me more about the motivation. Why do you want to build? Like, so you've done like tech stuff, consulting stuff, work with different types of institutions, agencies, and you mentioned that you wanted to go into DeFi to build something that can make a change. Like, what's the change you're looking for? What's the motivation here?
Right. I think the key word here is just to even up the playing field. So the first company I founded in 2017 was in the ICO craze back in the days. I really entered the market with this whole knowledge of how to analyze companies and organizations in the real world. And it was just non-existent in our market, right? People are going left and right, trying to find the right alpha and where to really put their capital in. And there was just no protection for the end user. And end user is just a dirty word for people. So I think this is what really brought me in. And it was quite successful back at the time. It was MSRI days. It went for 2 years. And then Bitcoin completely crashed to I don't even remember how, a few hundreds. So, but it really led me into this journey, and to see the evolvement of DeFi since really brought this possible vision, and now very possible vision, of open finance in DeFi. So 2020, 2021, where DeFi really became a thing and materialized. This is where things really got interesting. And I really started to think, okay, so how do we going to change that in a way that will be helpful, not just for those 1%ers, but the majority of people as a whole. And I'm sure I'm about to elaborate how Factor comes into the picture.
Yeah, that's interesting, right? I was there at the ICO craze as well at 2017, and then the crash after, and there was definitely an existential crisis in DeFi when it was plummeting to that low, and it really felt like crypto or DeFi might not survive for a couple of years. So fast forward to today, Factor just released their Factor Studio. I've heard that it's something along the lines of like a Shopify for all of DeFi, or all of DeFi strategies. Can you share with me like what's the biggest problem here that you guys are trying to solve?
Sure thing. And I think Shopify for DeFi really captures it. So I mentioned these one percenters, right, in finance. So let's lend it to our world and in DeFi. So you have the 1% of people, or even less of that, they are expert in financial strategies. They understand the yield. They know how to create it and how to monetize it and how to utilize it. I think the key problem that we identified is there is a lack of knowledge with the other 99%. So you basically have two gaps. One, for those experts, they can now go and create those numerous strategies, but they will have to do it manually and in a limited way because, of course, when you go with automation, there's a whole different layer of opportunities that arise from these capabilities. On the other side, you have the 99% who are just looking to make more yield on their capital. And this is where the Shopify for DeFi comes in. So we first focused on building this composable infrastructure. So we connected all of DeFi into one place and really in a drag and drop interface or an SDK. If you're a developer, you can now develop essentially any type of DeFi strategy, whether it's a simple flash loan or a very complicated 70 layered or steps strategy to really optimize your yield. And the key thing here and why Shopify for DeFi is really a good title for it is that we enable those creators to then go and publish it in order to make it accessible for the other 99%. So those who have no knowledge of how to really utilize DeFi in the best way can now one-click deposit into these strategies and into this experts' abilities.
So, like as a 99 percenter, then I don't need to understand the different protocols, the different strategies. I don't need to manually, try to manage my strategies. Like all I really want as a retail is to find a place to park my money and earn a yield, right? So that kind of like brings to mind kind of like the funds and asset management industry that we see in TradFi. So is that what you're trying to rebuild here?
Exactly. I mean, you managed it correctly. Basically, look at your bank right now. You have an app. You can throw in your capital into your saving account and make a very low percentage of yield. Why is that? Because this yield and your capital is being utilized by the same one percenters, only it's not in open finance, meaning you're basically creating what in socials will be like just a financial gap, right? Or a knowledge gap. So they can now utilize your capital in order to maximize their profit. And this is what we can solve in DeFi. And this is what Factor solves within our space. So, well, we basically see, and I like to repeat that. I mean, Factor won't stop until my mom will just be able to say, okay, I can now go and deposit my $2,000 that I got as a salary, and it will just be at the hands of someone who knows much better than I do how to utilize my capital.
So it sounds like that ambitious idea that you're trying to achieve here is really trying to grow the pie for DeFi, right? By enabling people to just come in and essentially aid into different strategies that are pre-created by DeFi strategists, by protocols and creators that use Factors SDK, Factors Infra, and essentially spin off vault strategies, protocols in a super fast way, like something that's 10x or 100x faster than what is able to be done now today in DeFi, right? So like you talked about the opportunity. How big do you think this opportunity really is for DeFi?
Well, I mean, and I think we'll dive into it more in later times, but basically endless, right? So if we look at TradFi right now, asset management as a whole is the largest sector in TradFi. You have BlackRock managing $10 trillion. Imran, yourself, I mean, have a pension fund. It's managed by your local investment firm. And this is a very limited playing field, right? And I think this is what DeFi can really bring into a change as a whole, and what Factor comes to solve within DeFi in order to enable it. It will take time until my mom will be able to just understand and deposit. And this is a UX issue as a whole in crypto. But first of all, we still have a big market. I mean, we're talking dozens and hundreds of billions in liquidity now in DeFi that is fragmented, whether it's between different protocols, and we know how much forks are prevalent in our fields, right? So different chains and different protocols that are just trying to copy paste their own abilities, and which I like, by the way. It does bring and foster innovation by itself, sometimes slower, sometimes faster. But the key thing here is how we solve this fragmentation and put it all together in one single place. And I really believe that this is what we are now really able to achieve after really hard 2 years of work.
So what you're saying is the fragmentation across chains, the fragmentation across protocols is just too much for the market to understand how to utilize in an efficient way. And what Factor will solve is essentially being able to connect and automate all of these together, right?
100%. And again, it's not an easy challenge, and we have embarked this journey, knowing that it will take a lot of time for us to bring this all together, all the protocols and especially all the chains together. But as we know, mass adoption doesn't come in a day, and we still have a long journey as an industry to accomplish all this. But the exciting parts are really here.
What's a critical point for mass adoption, you think? Like, what will really bring mass adoption from TradFi, from Web2 into crypto from your POV, right? So like that tipping point when your mom, my mom, friends of ours take their savings or take a certain allocation of their liquidity and say, I'm going to put it into crypto now. What's that? What really enables that? Because some people say it's a UX, some people say it's regulation, some people say it's education. What do you think is that thing, or the one key thing in your opinion?
Right. So that's a great question. And I think regulation would be the easy answer, but I don't believe it's that, because regulation is still not really an existent thing in our markets, and it still doesn't stop us and, again, billions and billions of dollars to be poured into the market. I think the key thing is UX. And as someone who's been here for a while now, I mean, we played around with Windows 98 type of apps just a few years ago, right? And I think this is really the major gap that this cycle that we're now in is trying to solve, whether it's in DeFi, like Factor is doing, and many others, but it's also true to social apps, or even I think we need to really be able to have a seamless experience, to really not know what blockchain is in order to do it. Because, I mean, you and I are now streaming and recording a podcast from different countries, and we don't necessarily know how HTTPS works to the core of it, right? This is exactly the type of thing we need to get to with DeFi crypto in general, just to solve this accessibility points for someone to just open an app and it will look like the bank app that they know, or open up a social app and it will look like Facebook and Instagram, and it will feel like it without opening up MetaMask or Rabbit Wallet.
Yeah. So you mentioned that the first step is really building that infra and solving the fragmentation problem in DeFi today. So run me through how that looks like, right? Because right now I can earn yield when I go into DeFi. I have certain options. Maybe I can go into a lending protocol. Maybe I can go into an LP protocol. Maybe I can go into some of these yield optimizer protocols. So what does really Factor bring to the table here that isn't seen yet?
That's a wonderful thing. And I think the cool part is that Factor doesn't really compete, quote unquote. And you mentioned various segments. So you have, let's call them the core primitives, right? The lending markets, the LP, which is the swapping and really the liquidity that sits in DeFi. And you also have those yield optimizers solutions, right? And this is really where Factor comes into the picture. So our claim is basically saying those yield optimizers are being built for utilizing the different primitives in a way for you to really have access to the liquidity and the yield. But they are very smart people with financial knowledge, and in our case, DeFi knowledge, that are creating an assortment of vaults or strategies. Wherever they may be, how smart they will be, it will be a limited offering. And what factors come here to solve is this fragmentation, or to offer diversification. So we want to build and give the tools for these yield optimizer builders, for the asset managers, to very simply create those optimized strategies and really utilize the primitives from all around DeFi in a very accessible way. So now, instead of raising money, building a protocol, hiring devs, going into audits, this entire realm, someone with this core financial knowledge can utilize it in a Zapier-like UX, just connect the different steps, and forgive the cliche, but it's really about money Legos, right? You connect the different primitives one after the other, you hook up an automation, and you can really now utilize the most executable, optimized yield process. And this is really what Factor is all about.
So either you have a protocol like, let's say, Beefy, that takes some sort of underlying strategy from another protocol like Uniswap, and they purpose built a vault, but that's not something that is accessible for anyone else outside of Beefy, right? Like like you said, it's very purpose built. So what Factor does is you can take something from Uniswap, you can take something from Aave, and you can link all these steps up together for the first time, simply in a drag and drop no code way. I was actually wondering, and we didn't discuss this earlier, but whether you could maybe even share how that looks like right now.
So first of all, let's start with the example you shared. Actually, Beefy is a great example because they are a protocol that I adore, really. Like they really nailed all this connection between those different primitives. They created vaults, or sort of automations that are uniquely connecting between different protocols. And we recently met, and the utility here is very simple. If you just want to go and you identified a vault that you want to go into, you can go into Beefy Finance. But maybe you now want to create, and this is again for the expert side, right? You really know what you're doing. So maybe you want to take a flash loan to leverage and create more margin with your capital, and then put it up in Beefy, and maybe auto compound the rewards later on, or maybe your rewards that you get from Beefy, you then want to take it into an LP provision position. So this is really where Factor comes in. Once we connect a protocol into our infrastructure, we de facto make it fully composable. We make it as this Tetris or money Lego. You can combine it and take it to however you see fit within your vision as an asset manager, and again, offer it to the ones who just doesn't know how to do it.
And that's the fascinating part, right? Because if I'm a strategist, I don't need to even know how to code. I just need to understand how these Lego building blocks work together. And then I can connect that flash loan to the vault, to the LP position, all within Factor's UI. And then I can make it available for the market. And as a retail user outside in the market, I can literally ape into this strategy and deposit my crypto with one click, and it's fully automated for me, right?
You nailed it. You nailed it. And the key thing, and I think this is why it's so unique, not just Factor, but DeFi as a whole in comparison to TradFi, is the trustless effect, right? So we do permissionless asset management. You don't need to know the manager on the other side. You don't need to know their background. There is a very clear on-chain result of this action. So in Factor, and especially coming from my background in analysis and building data-based tools, we aim to even further simplified by adding risk management analysis on top of it to simplify it for you, whether it will be with ratings and further data to you as someone who doesn't know necessarily finance, to just be able to have better choices of which manager's vault you're going with. But some of the key things here is just, well, how much risk I'm about to embark in and how much yield I'm going to get to it. Each one of us have their own risk appetite. But once we have a full diversification and this trustless system where all those managers and financial experts can simply create it and experiment and use it as a playground to just find the best possible optimization for them and just offer it for us, the people who just want more yield. I mean, I think that's like the holy grail.
That's awesome. Like every time I hear this explanation, it really blows my mind because, like, as a DeFi builder myself, like I know how long it takes to build out products, and what Factor can provide is something that can really reduce that go-to-market effect by so much, and then provide so much optionality to the marketplace in a way that's really never seen before. But maybe you can share with me on the flip side, because people will be thinking around, the more that there are multiple steps or blocks being involved, then certainly there's a certain level of risk, like you mentioned before, right? So how does risk factor into all of this, and how is it managed?
Right. So first of all, I mean, let's talk about risk in DeFi, right? It's a complicated subject because not just in DeFi, but in finance, in investments, although it's a curse word, it's complicated and it involves risk. This is why you get yield. So there's of course different elements where thing goes wrong, and this is really where all of our work has been centered on. Like we mentioned, different core primitives. We aren't building a core primitive. Our entire team, our entire journey was around solving these exact type of issues. So how can we limit the manager from becoming a bad actor, right? We don't know the manager. That's the whole point. How can we make sure that they aren't able to just pull up the money or really manipulate the strategy for you as a depositor to lose yield, or worse, lose your entire capital? And I can go in length here, but I think this is not what we came here to do. But we really have all these different elements and protections in place, whether it's pausing or simplifying exit strategies, even for the manager, but also for the depositor, in order to protect both sides of this game from really the bad actors, because bad actors, as we know, they're all around. So we are focusing on that exact risk management layer in order to allow you as the manager the best tools to build in the most simple way, but in the same time to protect you as the depositor from bad actors that can arise in the market.
So I love really talking to people like you, like really DeFi purists, builder purists. You guys are really trying to build something really, really game changing, bring benefit to users. At the same time, you have all this different meta that's coming in. So, for example, one big meta this cycle is the idea that, okay, meme coins is really the driving narrative of this whole cycle. I'm wondering, or I'm curious your take here, right? Like, do you think that meme coins is going to be what brings the retail in, going to bring what is going to be what crypto moves crypto forward, or like there's a whole bunch of DeFi OGs that are talking about a DeFi renaissance, DeFi 2.0 or even 3.0. Like, what do you think people are getting wrong about today's cycle, today's narrative, today's market that you think you are on the right side of history on?
So yeah, it's troublesome to put myself in the right side of history, right? I am a maximalist, right? I do think I work in a favor of positivity into this technological renaissance we're facing with crypto. And I think so. Let's start with the meme coin stuff. So yes, I don't really go there, personally speaking, but I'm pragmatic, right? You can't just go and say, oh, I'm building an infrastructure that will be super revolutionizable to the entire market, but there won't be other things that will have impact. And I think meme coins is now the cycle, but a journalist asked me the same question you did only 6, 7 years ago on NFTs. Will it bring the mass market? Is it just a fad? Why is it even here? I mean, we know that crypto and DeFi is having a lot of speculation in this space right now. And that's, I think, healthy as part of the evolvement of markets in general. Where we sit, I think, in DeFi is a very healthy space because we are already a foundational layer, whether it's in crypto and hopefully in finance in general, where it's not just about fads and about what is the next narrative. Now we're focusing about real utilities and real needs to really bring value to the world in general. So there will always be memes, there will always be NFTs and things that you and I can't even imagine right now, but they will always flow back into the more foundational layers. So some people will lose money on meme coins, some will get rich and move to Vegas. But I think it really is. And again, while I'm not there, it is a cool tool to really pull in some new people who might not be interested in investing or in infrastructure or interoperability. They are now speculators and they are getting pulled into this deep rabbit hole, which takes time to understand. And this is why I really kind of like things like the ads or the meme coins for the sake of the argument, because it does bring more people as the top of the funnel type of element.
Yeah, that's what people say a lot around meme coins, and even like the celebrities and creators that are coming in and talking about these meme coins. I wonder whether you have any like hot takes or controversial takes around the market today that you'd like to share.
Well, I am controversial, but on many different things. I think the key thing is expecting mass adoption is almost plain stupid. Like we're just not there yet. There is so much to do, so much to work on before we can expect anyone to just jump in and use our product and convert TradFi to DeFi or convert people to Lens or Farcaster from Facebook and Instagram. It's just not going to happen now. There's so much work, and I see now this cycle as the UX cycle, right? We are now improving the experience itself and make it easier for people, but it doesn't mean it's the end of the journey. There is a lot we should accomplish first and really be able to cater to the existing users and people before we go and imagine about the next billion users. First, we need the first million users and not bots, right?
Yep. But at the same time, people are saying that bots will be prevalent in this whole industry, right? Like trading bots, autonomous AI bots, and agents and stuff like that. I think it will be, you won't be able to remove them. In fact, they will be more and more prevalent moving forward as well.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. I want to differentiate between the bots. So when I shit on bots, I mean those activity bots, those who are farming activity for airdrops or whatever. Things like AI, which I can't be more bullish on. These are things that will keep optimizing markets, optimize everything, right? So trading bots is a great example. And if we can get things like really open finance and, for the sake of the argument, Factor integrated with trading bots, that will really make it really helpful for people who has no knowledge of how to utilize or even capability. Again, AI is here because it does things better than humans, now in small scale, but it will keep improving. So if we get this right, it really is a net positive for the industry. So no to activity bots, yes to trading bots for the sake of this discussion.
I see. I see. On that point of AI, like I know that you're a real person only because we met in person at a conference, right? But before that, I was like, man, is this guy, this Gura, is he an AI? Is he a simulation? So can you tell me a bit more around like that decision to be a undoxed founder? What do you think the pros and cons are? You also mentioned earlier around bad actors, and there is this preconception that maybe if the founder is not doxed, is not public, doesn't show his face or name, maybe that person could be quite highly a bad actor. Like, share with me the thought process around this and your experience.
Of course, yeah. So you know what? Let me take you back to 2017. So I was a founder. I was a Docs
Yeah.
founder, by the way. My face was everywhere. I was actually super active in whether it's forums or anything and public media. And just to be clear, it played very badly for me. I started to get very targeted social engineering hack attempts on a weekly basis.
Mm,
Not just me, but
mm,
my family, because we spoke about bad actors. And as someone who was bred by the internet, we know how easy it is to really start playing around with destruction, whether
mm,
you really aiming to do hacks or you're just a frustrated user. And I think in our industry and this privacy element in general, we know we're playing around, uh, 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 I don't want to say against, but with people all around the world who might not have the best interest in mind. So we need to be able to identify what is important. And I think merit is the key thing. So while, yes, I am undoxed, that's correct. And it could be a risk for someone to just go and believe someone just off the bat. But there is merit that we build on chain. This is the key part, on chain. It started off the internet, right, in places like Reddit, but now we have on chain abilities to prove that someone can be either a positive actor in the market or a bad actor in the market. And I think privacy is just something we should value and not see as an issue. And yes, we will need more tools in order to verify and enable more trust in a trustless based system. But I think we're really going there. So if 2 3 years ago, undoxed founders were immediately seen as something that is a no-go, I think it's now changing because the market and the people within it are growing. Their understanding is growing. Why is privacy matters so much, and how we can really deliver based on merit and not just based on Instagram photos.
Yeah, that's a very interesting point, right? Like brings to mind the recent development because of Murat, right? Murat's the current prophet of meme coins now, and he's talking about the meme coin super cycle. And Zach XBT, the famous online sleuth, was basically looking at all the on-chain transactions and looking at the on-chain wallets, and then he goes, "Hey, I found 11 or 14 wallets, I can't recall, of Murat that I have super high confidence that it's his. Probably partial of what his portfolio is about 24 million. He says that the reason I share this is because I want people to know what he holds. And when he transacts, before you make a decision around aping into his bag that he's shilling or his prophecies that he's saying. But at the same time, people are saying now you've already condemned Murat because it's like pre-crime, right? Like there's no concrete evidence now that Murat has committed a crime or any fraud, but now you have doxed his wallets. People know how much he has specifically in those wallets. He'll never be safe again because if someone sees him or if someone engineers an attack on him, either online or even in person, he will never be safe again. Like someone could try to kill him, hold him out at gunpoint, and force him to open up the wallets, make the transfers. Like this has happened quite a lot in the industry now. So I really wonder what your thoughts are on this, like this online sleuthing and on-chain investigation, maybe going too far in this case.
To be honest, I think it nailed exactly to my previous point, right? So we have privacy and operational security based system and people, they don't necessarily have to be doxed in order to provide valuable opinions and valuable information to the market and for the people who are reading them. On the same token, we want transparency. This is why we did on-chain actions. So having the Murad's face online, and as you mentioned, it's scary, right? To be able to be so exposed that someone could just threaten your personal security because they know what you have in your wallet. That could have been solved by some security and operational security. So I think sleuthing is super important for us to be able to have a transparent metric and a transparent ability to identify what is true and what is not. And we should leave the personal side or the real world side a bit more detached to it in order to protect the person behind it. I really believe it's for protection, because bad actors are not just the people who are grifters and trying to round up a wallet, but actually people who are able to threaten a personal security or somebody's family, which is really, with all this internet money, it's something we really don't want to see.
Yeah, that's definitely some interesting times you're living in, and we'll see what happens from that side of things moving forward. But it brings to mind a question that I have, right? Like, if you could remove one person or one organization from this industry, and that would be a net good for the industry, who would you remove, if any?
Oh no! Don't get me there. No, but I think so. Without mentioning a specific name, I think.
Oh, you should.
Nah. I just been into media training. I can't do that. So, so basically, I think beyond just a specific name, we have a lot of actors in the market. So we spoke about hackers and stuff. This is not even about this. It's about building a more clean environment for people to participate in. And I think we have a lot of actors in the market, whether they are protocols or individuals, call them KOLs, that are purely grifting. So KOLs or forks are something very applicable, and we need them in the market. Having the ones that are purely financially motivated and utilizing this open market and open social channels in order to really take advantage over the lack of knowledge of people. Meme coins is a great example, right? Somebody's now posting up a ticker and everybody running for it, and you can see pump and dump in a way that was never seen in the market before. Like we mentioned ICOs in the beginning of the conversation, this wasn't even that bad back then. Now we see just purely manipulation, and manipulation is not just a word to throw in the air. It's people's funds, it's people trust within the industry we are building in. Because if someone is just hitting on a bad actor, a grifter, as we like to say, and he puts his trust in them and he's not verifying because maybe he just doesn't have the knowledge on how to verify, we're just going down a rabbit hole, which creates a nightmare, like, and maybe even a PTSD for someone to just go back and say, oh, this area is just not something I want to enter in ever again. So I think following up the previous discussion, sleuthing is a great way, as well as other tools that are being built on the market for risk analysis, for further education, to really just go and enhance it. We are building anarchy, the positive side of it, right? Not the bad one. And we need people to come in and help with their own tools in order to make this anarchy worthwhile.
Well said. So for those who are interested to find out more about Factor, maybe try it out, where should they go? What should people expect next from Factor? Maybe give us a summary or snippet of what's to come.
Wonderful. Yeah. So first of all, you're all welcome to hit Factor.fi. We have all the social channels. We have a very nice Discord with an awesome community that is sharing their strategies and their opinions on DeFi in general. I think in terms of what's coming next, so we spoke about Factor as Shopify for DeFi. So we've already fully completed the ability for you as a creator or a DeFi strategist to build any type of strategy that comes in mind with various integrations and various building blocks or money Legos already available in studio.factor.fi. You can get an access code. It's now in beta. You can get an access code through our Discord or any of our contributors. And what we're really excited about, and it's going into rigorous auditing as we speak, is this exact ability to go and share it to the public. So we mentioned those experts, the one percenters that have the knowledge and could then offer it to the market. They don't do it just because they have good faith. They can also monetize it. And this is exactly where we're aiming. So if we're looking at TradFi, you have huge organizations that have lots of suits or executives in a nicer way to say it, but they are not the one that necessarily hold the knowledge. The knowledge still sits with the people or their employees, the trade rooms. And this is where the trade rooms and the people who are depositing their capital meets, which is Factor Studio Pro, which will be launched in about a month from now in really rigorous auditing. So you're all welcome to come and visit our channels, come to Discord, play it around, try to break it, and any feedback is fully welcomed.
That's so awesome. Like the strategist boiler room. I can't wait. Like as the DeFi maxi, I'm like super, super excited to see this come to fruition, to see like 1,000 creators from all over the world creating like 1,000 or thousands of different strategies and bringing it to like millions of people and seeing the results of those experiments. It's super, super interesting. I'm really happy we had to chat. I have a feeling that we should have like a part two sometime, Kura, but otherwise, thank you so much for coming on We Never Left.
Thank you for having me. Looking forward to be hosted again.